The Central Bank of Nigeria has clarified reasons for the significant decline in the nation's foreign exchange reserves, asserting that it wasn't primarily aimed at defending the naira, as commonly believed but rather to partially repay debts owed to creditors. The bank further expressed its desire to minimize its involvement in the market, aiming to foster a scenario where prices are determined through the interactions of willing buyers and sellers. This approach emphasizes the importance of allowing market forces to determine prices rather than relying heavily on intervention from the apex bank. The CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso gave the explanation on Wednesday during the ongoing International Monetary Fund World Bank spring meetings holding in Washington, D.C., United States. Nigerians had raised concerns over the significant downturn of the country's foreign exchange reserves, plunging by approximately $2.16 billion in 29 days amidst robust efforts to stabilize the naira. Data on the movement of foreign reserves obtained from the CBN website showed that as of April 15, 2024, the FX reserves had fallen to $32.29 billion, which is a major decline from $34.45 billion recorded on March 18, 2024. The reserves also witnessed a 43-day surge, accruing by $1.28 billion between February 5th and March 18, 2024. The CBN had earlier attributed the rise to increased remittance payments from Nigerians abroad and heightened interest from foreign investors in local assets, including government debt securities. The Apex Bank also noted that the increase was due to reforms in the foreign exchange market and an increase in oil production, amongst others. And the federal government, through its Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has stated that the various claims by different individuals and groups on the alleged return of subsidy on premium motor spirits, also known as petrol, were wrong. The government also challenged those who make these arguments to provide evidence to justify their allegations, stressing that since President Bola Tinubu had declared the end of subsidy on petrol, the situation remains so. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and Oil, Heineken Lokpobiri, stressed that fuel subsidy was a sensitive issue, but noted that the government had made its position known on the matter, insisting that petrol subsidy had ceased to exist, and therefore urged those who alleged that the government was still subsidizing the commodity to provide evidence and facts. The NNPC also said it was recovering its full cost on the petroleum product that it imports into Nigeria and insisted that there was nothing like petrol subsidy anymore. NNPC is the sole importer of petrol into Nigeria currently. The comments came as marketers backed the claim by the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, that the federal government had resumed the payment of subsidy on premium motor spirit. And the federal government says gas supply and purchase agreements to support the final investment decision for the $3.8 billion brass methanol project will be executed in May of 2024. The brass methanol project is a major industrial project being built in Bayelsa State to produce methanol, a key industrial chemical using natural gas resources. Nigeria currently imports all its methanol. Located in Brass Island, Bayelsa, the facility is to have a capacity of 10,000 tons of methanol per day when completed, as it is still under construction and expected to be operational this year. The $3.8 billion is to create up to 15,000 jobs during construction and aims to boost the Nigerian economy by reducing reliance on imports. This project is a joint venture between DSV Engineering Nigeria and DSV Engineering Limited, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, and the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. The Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Ekperikpe Ekpo, announced the execution date for the gas supply agreement in Abuja on Wednesday after a meeting with key stakeholders of the project in his office. Ekpo, in a statement issued by his media aide Louis Iba, said the meeting was to confirm adequate gas supply to the Brass Methanol project by the NNPC, Shell, Total Energies NAOC joint venture. He said the meeting was to also determine the next steps to conclude and execute the GSPA and mature the phase 2 of the gas supply to the project. In a bid to address the recurrent collapse of Nigeria's power grid, the federal government says it has deployed a new technology to detect and respond to sudden dips in power generation across the country. It announced this through the Transmission Company of Nigeria on Wednesday, stating that the new generation loss detection system would advance TCN's grid management capabilities. On Tuesday, there were reports that Nigeria witnessed its 6th power grid collapse of 2024, the preceding day as electricity generation on the system collapsed from 2,583.77 megawatts at 2 a.m. on Monday to 64.7 megawatts around 3 a.m. before the grid was restored later in the day. The report stated that though the Transmission Company of Nigeria attributed the cause of Monday's grid collapse to a fire incident, it had consistently blamed gas shortage for power generation and the vandalism of power infrastructure for the recurrent cases of grid collapse in Nigeria. It will be worthy of note that Nigeria generates an average of 4,000 megawatts of electricity for an estimated 200 million citizens across the country. However, this is hardly sustainable as the grid continues to record incessant collapses due to gas supply constraints, transmission infrastructure vandalism, and liquidity crisis, among others. To address this, TCN, in a statement issued by its spokesperson in Abuja on Wednesday, said a new technology had been deployed by the federal government's company to effectively manage the transmission network and the national grid.